Fine. So I think you can see the screen. No? Let me open the screen for you. I think you got the screen now. Fine. So right now, till date, we have gone through something called data types. True? Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. Yeah. So right now, till date, we have gone through certain no Python basics one. We are done with Python basics one, right? So what we have dealt in Python basics one, we have dealt to know what is Python, what is an interpreter and all. Okay, we have learned different types of data types. Okay, how these data types are useful, what are the different types of data types which we have, and what are the data structures in which you use something like string, you use something like list, dictionary, and tuple sets for different purposes which we use now. So right now, we till date we have gone no we have gone through certain data types which are there in Python, and how we can use in different applications for different purposes. When we have a different data types, every data type has its own purpose to deal with the different applications or process. Now, right now we are going to deal something called basic stuff. Now, what we are going to do exactly in this basic stuff? In basic stuff, you are going to perform certain action on what? Action on this data types. Okay, you can perform any kind of operation, like for example, if you want to perform a repeated operation. Okay, if you want to repeat the operation multiple times, that means you are performing certain operation, right? You are performing certain action on the data type to repeat its items or repeat its functionality, for which we use certain actions. Okay, so we are going to deal the actions which we are going to perform on different types of data types in Python basics too. Clear? Now now what is the first action that we gonna see? Okay, we gonna see the first thing that we gonna describe or learn in this Python basics 2 is conditional logic. Hope you might have heard about this conditional logic. Conditional logic is somewhere you perform certain logic under certain condition. For example, for example, okay. Now you might have seen, uh, how do you get your driving license? What are the minimum criteria that you are supposed to get? No, if you are supposed to drive a vehicle, what you have to have? You should have a driving license, true? Right? So let's deal with our boolean. As I said you, we are going to perform certain actions on these data types. Let's deal with something called boolean right now. Okay, for our better understanding. Okay, now what we are going to perform on this data type, I'm going to check whether, if I would like to drive a vehicle, if I would like to drive a vehicle, okay, a car, what I should have, I should have something called a license, right? I should have a license so that at least I can drive. That's how I have a permit to drive. True? You know? So if I put this something called true, which is a boolean function, boolean data type. If I have this license, what I can do, if is licensed, uh, is license, then what I can do, I can I can drive. you can drive. That is what it can show us. True. If not, if you don't have any license, we use something called else for it, for which use something called you can't drive. Now what exactly we are trying to do? Now what we are trying to do, we are checking certain logic under certain condition. We are checking if you would like to really drive a car. Okay, what is the condition that you are checking? If you have licensed, then the only thing that you can do, you can drive. If not, you can't drive because you don't have have permission to drive. Right? True? Now if I execute this, what could be the answer? What could be the answer? I have given something called is, else is something called true. True. That means this condition is true. I'm going to execute this. You can drive only when if you got if you get license. If not, you can't drive. This is what I'm going to print out. Now, where you can see this. For example, whenever you want to book any Zoom car or something else, a car driving license, and they usually ask this: do you have the driving license? You tell yes, or there will be certain bullet options. True, to choose either yes or no. If you choose yes, and there will be a prompt that comes into the picture that you can drive. No, now you can select the vehicles. If not, what exactly it will pop up? It will pop up that you don't have the license, so you can't purchase or you can't drive any vehicle through our Zoom. That is what it shows up, right? Now if I execute this code, can you expect what could be the result? See here. See, you can drive. Now why this has been printed? This condition, this is where you have given something called is license true. Now why this has been printed? Because if this is true, I'm going to print this. If this is false, I'm going to print else. What if you're not, if you don't have any license, then this is going to execute this statement. That means what? This is a condition where this logic is nothing but if else logic. If you are true, then I'm going to execute whatever line of code which you have written under me. If not, I will choose something called else block. This is called if block and this is called else block. Okay. If this condition is not met, I'm going to execute this line of code. For example, if I, instead of me putting this one as true, I put something called as false. That means zero. That means false. That means you don't have the license. Now, if I execute this code, you can see that you can't drive. You don't have permission. Is that clear? So, if else is a conditional logic where the code is going to execute the else if block only when the condition is true. If not, if it is by default it is false, then the Python interpreter will choose else and it will directly execute. If this is false, then definitely I have to execute either of the one, right? Either 0 or 1, right? I have to execute either this or that. If the condition is not met, then definitely I'm going to choose else block and I'm going to execute whatever the lines of codes which you have written in this. Now there is a scenario where you have multiple conditions to check. That means what? మనకి లైసెన్స్ వస్తే ఒకటే సరిపోతుంది. లైక్ ఇఫ్ యూ గెట్ ఓన్లీ ద లైసెన్స్, is that enough? No, right? You should also pass certain criteria, which is nothing but 18 years old. If you are 18 years old, then you are at least eligible to apply for the license. True? Now, if I would like to check multiple conditions on this, that means what? Is old enough? Okay. Let me put this as false. Okay. And first, I will check this. Is old? Okay. Then you have enough age. Sorry. Then you have enough age to drive. Okay. This is what I'm going to execute. Okay. Now, if I get, if I am 18 years and above, okay, I should also check, right? In order to drive the license, in order to drive the vehicle, I should get is no, I should also get license, true, in order to drive a vehicle. No, is L, no, that's how there is something called LF, which is nothing but if you would like to check multiple conditions in Python, we use something called LF. Okay, that means else if you would like to check multiple conditions, you can write multiple conditions using this else if. Okay, what if not this? No, what if this? If you are old enough, okay, fine, but do you have the license is also the thing which I have to check it, right? Now now you can drive, you are now eligible to drive, right? You have right now eligible, you are now eligible to drive. Now you are 18 years old and you got a license, then what you can do, you can something called print anything you want. Okay, you can drive, right? Now what if the both conditions are not met, you're not 18 years old, you're not licensed to, then you can't drive, true, because you don't have enough age. Now in that case, you don't have enough age to drive. Clear? Now if I execute this code, okay, first we'll try to check all the possible ways to execute this. Okay, now if I execute this, let's go with false. That means you are not enough old and you are no, you don't have the license. When you don't, when you are not enough years of old, like definitely will not get the license, right? Now if I execute this code, see, you don't have enough age to drive. Now what if you are old enough? Okay, there will be a scenario where people with 18 years and old, 18 years and plus, but they don't have the driving license, true, there will be, this is also scenario, right? Now what can be this output? If this is old, okay, this is you are 18 years old and you didn't get license, what you are supposed to print? What could you think that the output? Let's execute this. See, it gives me you have enough age to drive, true, you have enough age to drive. Then you can also write down like this. Now and now you can apply for driving license, है ना? If this is a case where if you are 18 years of old, and and you are not licensed, then you have enough age to drive, and now you can apply for the driving license. Now what if I put both the cases as something called true? What could be your answer? What could be your answer?
Both will print true.
Okay, let's see this. What did you see? You have seen this, right? That means the first statement is executed. Why not the second one? Why not the second one? I will tell you. What if else block? How does the if else block will work? As soon as this is true, as soon as this is true, I'm going to execute this part. I'm least bothered what you have written here. I'm least bothered what you have written here. If my condition here it is true, I'm going to execute this part. I'm not worried about what you have written under this. Okay? If I put this as something called false, will that be a case? If you're not 18 years old, can you get the license? No. And if you see this code, now can you expect what could be the result now?
You are not eligible to drive.
Really? Okay, let's see. I feel it's second one. Yeah. See? See. What exactly it is doing? You said is old is false. Okay, you said this is false. Then I'm not going to execute this part. And it will come and check else if. Okay. If this is true, then I'm going to execute this part. Okay. Since this is true, I have executed this part, and I'm least bothered about what exactly it is written in the else, because I'm least bothered, because you said me to execute this part when the condition is true. He is licensed, yes. Then I'm going to execute this part. But is this the correct way of representing the code? No, right? If you're not 18 years and above, you can't get the license. Now, how can you tackle such kind of scenarios? That's where you see a beautiful concept called short circuit. Short circuiting in Python. Okay, that means what? What I do, instead of me putting all these things, okay, instead of me writing all this code, I just write down like this. Okay, give 1 second. Let me erase this. If your is old, okay, and and there is a condition that you, if you are aware of some other programming languages, you have heard about something called a logical, as I said, the logical statements. You see something like and, or, right? These are nothing but a logical, no, logical things that we can put in the Python code to make it very simple and precise. Now, since we are trying to check multiple conditions here, we can use certain short circuit elements in this Python, which is nothing but and, or, and, and there is something called or. Okay. Now, if you are old enough, and at the same time you are supposed to get license in order to drive, true? in order to drive. In that case, you have enough age to drive, and you can apply for the driving license, or you can write down like this. Now you can drive, and now you can drive. Now what if I say, if this condition, either of the condition is false? See what exactly it is doing. If you are old, if you are old enough, okay, then and how does and logic works? 0 0 is 0, 0 1 is 1, 1 0 is 1, sorry 0, and 1 1 is 1, right? How does and logic works? And logic works like this one, right? Your inputs, this is input 1, input 2. Hope you have heard about this AND gate, right? When this is 0 and 0, your output will be 0. If your input is 0 and the other input is 1, then what could be your output? 0. 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, the output is 1, right? This is what happens. If you take a bowl in which there is something called milk, okay, if you add poison into it, this is going to become poison, true, right? Let's take here 0 is something called poison. If you add poison and poison, you'll get poison. If you add something poison with milk, it turns into poison again, true. The same vice versa here. If you add milk to poison, again it's going to become a poison one, right? If you only add only milk and milk, then you will get a milk, true. In the similar way, this logic is going to be executed in that fashion. When both the conditions are met, then only this is going to be executed. If not, this is going to be executed. You can't you can't drive. Simple. Now what exactly it is happening? Look what exactly happened here. Let's see. Is old, that means which we have given as something false, that means this is 0. When the condition is 0 for and logic, definitely this is not going to execute this expression, true, because when you have added poison, definitely it is going to become a poison, then this is not going to be executed, true. The only thing which the interpreter can execute, when this is false, then I can execute only else block, true. Let's run this code and see. Okay, let's run this code. There is an issue. Now if I execute this code, let's see, you can't drive because the initial condition itself is false. If this condition, even if this is something like, if it is 0, either if it is 1 or 0, anyhow this and logic is going to give me an output 0 only, right? Because the interpreter will not go till this point, because once it is 0, and as soon as the interpreter sees and logic, definitely this is going to be 0, because even it is 1 or 0, I'm going to give you the result 0, because since there is an and operation, and in which the upfront the input is something called 0, definitely this is 0. then I'm going to execute else block. Now what if a scenario where this is true and this is false? Okay, now what exactly is going to happen? That means it is going to check with this one. It is going to check with this one. This is true. Okay, that means one. Okay, one. But there might be a chance this can be one. True. And his license is given something called now. Right now, this is going to check this expression. Is this expression is true or false? It is going to check from here. Since it is false over here, then this is going to be executed. Let's see. See, you can't drive. Clear? Now, what if I put both as something called true? And let me execute this code. See, you have enough age to drive and you can drive now. Did you get it? Now, what if I put something called both false? Tell me what could be the output. What could be the output?
You can't drive.
Simple. Because this condition is 0, this condition is 0, because this condition is right now 0, and this condition is also 0. 0 and 0, 0. So this is not going to be executed. What else interpreter has? Interpreter has something called else block, and this will be executed. And you should know what logic need to be implemented. As we are using and, this is what execution happened. But what if I use or? Will that work in the same way? Definitely not. Because our logic is completely different. How does our logic works? Our logic works like this. Your input 1, input 2, and your output. Okay. Your OR gate will be like this. True? 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, 0 is going to be 1, 1, 1. This is going to be 1. This is what the OR logic that we have learned previously. If you have, if you are aware of other programming languages, or else if you have gone through BTech, this is a general logic that we will go through. True? We might have heard about this XOR and all, true, or XOR logics. That's where these logic comes into the picture. That means what? If your input is 0 and 0, definitely this is going to be 0. Either of either of the one is 1. Okay, in the inputs I'm going to execute as well. That's how this is going to be executed. That means what? For example, how can I tell you this with an example? How can I tell you? Do you have any examples for this? Think of, if either of the thing is present, then I can execute that. What can be that? Any idea? Any idea about that? So there is a scenario where, let's think about this one. You have, okay, you have a generator in your house.
Okay.
Okay, you have electricity in your house.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, in that case, now you want to run an electrical appliance like TV. Let's take a TV. Okay,
Yes.
TV in the sense television. Okay.
Yes.
Now I can switch on the TV. I can watch the TV in either of the cases. Even if I have the electricity, or else if I have the generator which can
Like it.
generate electricity. In either of the cases, I can watch TV, right?
Yes, exactly.
Even if I don't have one, I can watch TV through another scenario. Like if I don't have electricity, if I have a generator,
Okay.
I can still
Yes,
watch
yes, exactly.
the TV. True. Now
Yeah.
that's how, if both were not there, either generator, either electricity. Can you switch on? Can you watch TV? No.
No, it's off.
So that means you should know when to use, what to use your conditional logics. Did you get it?
Okay.
Now, if I in place of or, can I use and? Is that works really? If you have electricity and generator, can you watch TV?
Yeah, if you have electricity and generator, we can watch.
So that means if this and logic is applicable for this particular condition, but you have to choose precisely. There will be somewhere scenario where, as we discussed previously, is licensed or is, you know,
Yes.
is old. In that case, we can't use something called or logic, right? Because there will be a scenario where even if you are 18 plus and if you don't have the license, you can't drive. True. So you should know exactly when to use these logics.
Okay, okay, okay.
Clear?
Yes, sir.
This is how we perform certain operations on this data types. Now, what is the data type that we have used? Boolean. Clear? Now, this is what the beautiful logic about. No, this is what the beautiful concept about conditional logic. And if I would like to have multiple, uh, you know, conditions to be evaluated, then I use else if that comes into the picture, and I can use else if as many as I want. Okay, so I can have multiple else if in else block, so that I can check multiple conditions in it. Clear? Any doubts in this? No. Now let's deal something called, there's something called truthy and falsy. Okay, have you heard about this anytime? Have you heard about this anytime? No. Truthy and falsy, that means what? Their existence. If you have, if there is some presence of that, no, if there is some presence of a value, then I'm going to consider it as a true. If not, false. If you're not there at your home, it's an indication, it's a falsy. You're not there. Your presence, your value in the house is zero. That's how this truthy and value comes into the picture. Falsy, truthy and falsy comes into the picture. Let's deal with, you know this one. For example, you have your username, something like that. Okay, let's deal with something called your login page. Okay, you have your, now this is a scenario. There is a scenario where it was asked, can you log into your Facebook account? You say yes. When you can say yes? When you have your username and password. True. Username and password. Then if username and password, password. Then you can log in. You can log in, right? You can log in. If not, if not, what? If not, you can't log in. You know, that means some or other way, if you have those presents, then only you can log in into your account. If not, can you log in into any of the Facebook account? No. That means what? You're directly checking its presence by just checking their value. That means what? Here username is given something called truth, in the sense this has become something called true, right? What you're trying to check here, you are checking true, and something called your password, which is nothing but false, right? True. In both the cases you are checking this one. So that's how this is going to be. This is not going to be executed because true and false is going to be false, and this is going to be executed. Clear? That means you are checking its presence. If you have those presents, then you will you will be uh, you will be allowed into that particular account login. For best example, I can tell you, if you have seen something called in US, when you get into freeway, there will be chances where you will be given certain space to drive. That means if your vehicle has more than two or more people, then you will be allocated to go in a separate lane, where this lane contains only two or more people. If you have no if you have more than two or more than two people, then you are supposed to use this. Okay. Now how can I use this through truthy and falsy? Now there are something called temperature detectors. Okay. These temperature detectors are going to check the temperature in a car. If there are more than two and more than two, if the people are something like two and more, then the temperature would be different. So that average temperature is going to detect if there are two or more people. If not, it is going to send you a penalty. That's where the truthy and falsy will be useful. Is your car occupied with two or more people? Then you are supposed to allow. You will not be. Oh no, no. You will not be something called. You will not get any fine. If it is less than, then your presence is less than two. Then you're gone. You are fine with so and so dollars. That's how you will check these conditions. Clear? Now, if you see, what exactly happened here. Okay, give me one second. Now, if you see what exactly happened here, the moment I put something called colon, okay, you see that there is some space that is automatically created here. True? You know, isn't it? Isn't it that true? See, the moment if I go back and if I see, if you write something called, if you type colon, and the moment you print enter, see, you have seen that the cursor is not pointing at the beginning. It is pointing you at some point, at some other point, right? This is called indentation. This is called indentation. This indentation is nothing but a four space gap. Four spaces that you create. That means from here, basically from here, four spaces that you're gonna create here, so that a proper indentation is made. Now what is this indentation? Indentation basically helps you to structure your code in a proper way, so that you can write the code and identify what part of code that belongs to certain block. If I don't provide something called any indentation, you might not know that this print will be belongs to this if block or not. So in order to create proper structure to the code, they use something called indentation. Indentation is nothing but a four space. Clear? That's how indentation can help you out in making your code proper structured way, so that even if you leave this code to someone else, they can understand that yes, since this cursor is pointed out here, that means this line of code, this block of code belongs to if block. Because the moment I see after this, I see something called else, that means whatever the things which I write it here with the proper indentation, that will belong to else block. Any doubts in this? Any doubts so far?